Hi, and welcome back to a new episode of this channel. And today we're going to talk about quilts and the pros and the cons compared to a sleeping bag. Is it only because it is lightweight that you should consider buying one? Let's find out. Many people believe that a quilt is only for hammock campers. Others, it is only for ultralight hikers. I say it's for everyone, and the benefits are many. Today I will highlight the benefits of a quilt and talk about the drawbacks of using one. I believe that many hikers chooses the sleeping bag mainly because of tradition or that they don't know it exists. I have used the quilt now for over 2 years, and the reason I changed was because I didn't feel comfortable in my sleeping bag. I felt claustrophobic, and I very often woke up on the 10th floor freezing when I fell off my sleeping pad. So first out, what is a quilt and what separates the quilt from a sleeping bag? Here are the differences. A quilt does not have a hood like the sleeping bag. A quilt has no backside, so you will sleep directly onto the sleeping pad. A quilt can be, in most cases, opened completely, creating a blanket. A quilt has no zippers, except for the footbox, so it cannot be closed completely. Well, that's it really. That's everything that separates the quilt from the sleeping bag. And here are the 3 main questions that you get when you talk about quilts. Number 1. Don't you get cold if sleeping directly onto the pad? And the answer to that is no. And the theory behind it is that the down or the synthetic material underneath your body gets compressed, so it will not add to the isolation. Question number 2. Don't your head get very cold without a hood? Well, the simple answer to that is yes, of course it will. So bring a beanie and you will be just fine. Question number 3. How do you keep warm if you can't close the quilt? First, you strap the quilt onto the sleeping pad with 1 or 2 elastic cords. That will make the quilt stay in place and close the gap so no cold air can get in. Secondly, you also close the quilt using a button or buckle behind your neck, and because you have a buffer system, most quilts do have one, your shoulders will not be cold. Now the question is, why should you choose a quilt in front of the sleeping bag? I mean, the first impression that you get is that it is mostly drawbacks and no advantages. Well, of course there is. And here are my 5 top reasons for choosing a quilt. The weight. A quilt with the same comfort temperature as a sleeping bag will always be a lighter choice. It is not claustrophobic because it has no zippers that can get stuck, and it is easy to open and close to get in and out of the quilt. If you are like me, who twists and turns a lot while sleeping, you will not fall off your sleeping pad because you will sleep directly on top of it. And the quilt will stay in place because it is strapped onto the pad. The quilt is more versatile. If sleeping in warmer conditions, you can easily convert the quilt to a blanket or just put 1 or 2 feet outside the quilt, or open the footbox slightly to let a little bit of cold air into your feet. And number 5. Because there is less material in the quilt, it compresses down smaller, and because of that it is also most of the time cheaper than the sleeping bag equivalent. And did I mention it's lighter? Okay, that's my top 5 reasons for choosing a quilt. But what about the drawbacks, right? Well, here are a few things to keep in mind. Bring a beanie or something else to put on your head during the night. Otherwise, your head will definitely be cold. If it is colder, let's say closer to freezing, make sure to tighten the space between your buckles. Otherwise, you will get cold air leaking into the quilt and you will have a difficult time to stay warm. Well, that is all the drawbacks that I can think of. And if you then weigh the pros against the cons, I believe it is an easy choice. I would go for the quilt any day of the week. For 3-season hiking, that is. You can also get away of using a quilt during winter time, but since I'm not hiking during that time because it's too cold and I don't like that, then I go skiing instead. Well, I should not be the one giving you any advice. I hope you liked this small episode about quilts, and if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to add a comment down below, and I'll come back to you with an answer as soon as I can. And that is if I have one. And that's it for today, and thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, I would very much appreciate if you took the time to subscribe to support this channel. I would also recommend that you hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos, and thumbs up if you like this video, and I will see you next week, right? Bye bye!